Hello, Americans. I'm Kenton McNall. It's Constitution time. Today is Monday, November 23rd, 2020, about 20 days after our last national election. Today I had the opportunity to be reminded of one of my favorite presidents, President Harry Truman. He was always one of my favorites. Couldn't tell you why. I could tell you more reasons why now, but he just always was one of my favorites. But he was a very common person that rose to the position of vice president and then president upon the death of President Roosevelt. And he was a very much under-respected, underrated president, both during his lifetime and somewhat after. But he was a president that certainly faced his share of constitutional challenges, and more than his share. He had to make some of the most difficult decisions that any president has ever had to make. He had to decide between losing 1 million American soldiers on the plains of Tokyo or dropping atomic bombs and ushering in the atomic age in the worst way possible. He faced problems with the military, starting with General Patton that wanted to continue the war into Russia, and continuing with General MacArthur, who directly challenged his authority as the President of the United States and felt that he, as a military leader, should be allowed to make his own decisions of what needed to be done. Harry fired him, and he was a very, very popular general. Winston Churchill said of President Truman that no single man had done more to preserve Western civilization than Harry Truman, because in the aftermath of World War II, President Truman had to deal with the Soviet Union, who very much had a world conquest bent in the Stalinist era, I should say. And he came up with a strategy of containment and ushered in the Cold War, which many say that we won. Took a long time. But President Truman had a lot of very, very real challenges. And in some ways was one of the last regular people to be the president. You know, he had famously humble beginnings, which I won't recount, but he was a man of the people, and not a billionaire or millionaire in any sense. It was good to be reminded of the fact that our presidents are made of that type of metal and are able to do those types of things for our country when we have the right man, which I very much hope that we will have in President-elect Joe Biden. Today was a mixed day for democracy, but I think very much mostly positive. And we had a lot of interesting things happen because the attack on our democracy has not stopped, and our voting system itself is still under attack. But good things have happened in that battle. Over the weekend, we learned that some states, their legislatures were considering taking action, or we're being asked to consider to take action to override the will of the people of their state and put their own slate of electors in. And despite those efforts, in which there was definitely very observable evidence that those efforts were real and were actually being potentially acted on as state legislators traveled to the White House. Despite those efforts, those elections have been certified in the state of Michigan and hopefully soon in other states as well. And as a direct consequence, I think, of some of that, the GSA has also certified Joe Biden as the president-elect, and will be releasing the funds and making the resources available to the transition team. And each one of those things is a bit of a load off at a time when we need a load off. And in many ways, this has been a good news week, because we've also heard that, yes, there are vaccines, and we're starting to deal with the timetables for getting those vaccines. And so these two huge issues that are weighing so many people down, so many people that I talk to are just dealing with the emotional and stress side of what we're all going through together as Americans in our political climate, and with COVID, with our inability to be with the people that we want to be with, to travel and do the things that we want to do. And, we're facing difficulty with our holiday, but it's good to have some of these things lifted from us. Unfortunately, the battle will still continue. I should also mention that the executive acknowledged the GSA's move with a tweet, of course, that was added some confidence to the fact that, yes, perhaps we will have some normalcy, but not quite yet, because that tweet said the battle continues. Legitimate challenges to election results state by state, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing un-American about it. It's probably a fairly normal process. What's not normal is the rhetoric, is from the executive himself, language that says our elections are corrupt, that our election system has been hacked by the hordes of the other side. That's what's never happened before, never ever happened before. And it affects our confidence in our own election system. It affects how people think about it. The purported numbers of people that feel that yes, there was something wrong with the election is just off the chart, when there's not one shred of evidence that there was anything wrong with the election. And I'll say something that I have said on this show before, that I'm incredibly proud of the people, because in the eye of this storm, with so much controversy raging around the integrity of the election itself, the integrity of democracy itself, the people who ran the elections, who worked within the election system, within the vote counting system, from the highest levels of the state governments to the secretaries of state, to the election boards, they never took their eye off the ball at all. They just kept doing their job. I saw no exception to that. And I paid attention to the process. And it gives me hope, and it makes me feel very good, because it showed me that when Americans have to do it, they do what needs to be done as Americans to get the job done, because those people were from every side of the political spectrum. They worked side by side, shoulder to shoulder. I suspect they didn't talk about politics all that much, to be honest with you. They probably just kept their mind on their job. And the few that I've seen interviewed were just proud Americans, proud to take that on, proud to do it. It reminds me that it's something we can all do in the next election. We can all volunteer to do what they did. Republicans and Democrats alike, in positions of responsibility, all did their job steadfastly and in a nonpartisan fashion. I saw no bias from even people that were, purported to be hardcore on this side or that side. They just did their job. They did it properly. And then their governors did their job too. For a while, the partisanship was set aside, and it was just so good to see. And it's definitely bolstered my belief that there was no systemic problem with the election. That doesn't mean there was no problem with it. But those challenges continue. But I think now, hopefully, we've hit the high tide. I have to admit, on Friday, when Rudy and Sydney got up and made their presentation I think Fox was the only network that carried it, that was not a proud moment for our country. That was, well, first of all, I was extremely concerned that Rudy was going to drop right there. He looked like he was having a heart attack. I'm glad he didn't. But the things that were said, the attacks on our democracy, on our election system, was just at a level that I hope to never see again. Likelihood is I'll see it within the next couple of weeks. But I hope to never see it again, because it just it's not the best face that we can put forward, especially after a successful election. Because if we had 155 million people vote in this election, and in the middle of a pandemic, when we're trying to keep people separated and doing so much by mail, and universally the people responsible and in charge and who actually inspected and observed are saying what a success it was, including the person responsible for security and from the administration, I think I'd be very, very happy with that, very proud of that. But we can't take our eye off the ball, because it's not over. This will not be over, and the challenges to our Constitution are not over. And the fact that we have such deep divisions mean that we have to keep a lot of work to do. We have to keep working. And that's what we'll strive to do on Constitution time. I didn't want to go the whole week without having the show. And by the way, I'm aware I have I think I screwed up my f-stop. Yes, I found out what an f-stop is, and I believe I've messed it up. I didn't not intentionally so dark here. But it's a good time to take a break. As much as we all can be together with family for Thanksgiving and for the holiday weekend, I think it's a good time. And if there's a lightening of the spirit because of some of the events that have happened, and the idea that we're going to be able to move on and go to the next chapter of the election process, at least, because we do still have two months to go, a little bit less than 2 months to go, but there will be more to come, I have no doubt. So thank you for joining us today, and we will be back next week to continue the conversation with Constitution Time. Be safe, Americans. Be well. Have a wonderful holiday. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your family.